Somewhere between the Caspian Sea and the Persian Gulf, between Central Asia and the Arab world, there exists a civilization that has outlasted empires, survived invasions, absorbed conquerors, and yet remained stubbornly itself. Let's rewind far back. The Iranian plateau has been inhabited for tens of thousands of years. But around 1500 BCE, something shifts. Indo-Iranian tribes begin migrating into the region. Among them, the Medes and the Persians. These weren't random wanderers. They brought with them language, religion, and a way of organizing the world. The Medes were first to build something resembling a state, the Median Empire, founded around 678 BCE. They're the ones who broke Assyrian power. They laid the foundation. But it's their cousins, the Persians, who would build something the ancient world had never seen. In 550 BCE, Cyrus II, later called Cyrus the Great, unified the Medes and Persians and began one of history's most remarkable conquests. Within 30 years, he built the largest empire the world had ever seen. Now here's where it gets interesting. Most ancient conquerors ruled through terror. Cyrus did something different. Hold up or reference, the Cyrus cylinder. This clay cylinder, dating to 539 BCE, is considered by many scholars to be one of the earliest known declarations of human rights. When Cyrus conquered Babylon, he freed the enslaved peoples held there, including Jewish exiles who returned to Jerusalem. The Achaemenid Empire stretched from Egypt to the borders of India. It held Greeks, Egyptians, Babylonians, Indians, and dozens of other peoples, all under one administration. And critically, it largely let them keep their languages, religions, and customs. This model of governance, centralized power, local tolerance, becomes a recurring theme in Iranian political thought. It's a tension the country wrestles with to this day. In 330 BCE, Alexander of Macedon defeats the last Achaemenid emperor, Darius III, and burns Persepolis to the ground. The empire is over. But here's the thing about Iran: the empire may end. The civilization doesn't. Alexander himself becomes increasingly Persian, adopting court customs, Persian dress, even marrying Roxana of Bactria. His generals, who divide his empire after his death, establish dynasties that are deeply Hellenistic on the surface, but Persian underneath. The Parthians, who take control of Iran around 247 BCE, rule for nearly 500 years. They fight Rome to a standstill. And through all of it, the Persian language, Persian art, Persian administrative traditions, they persist. In 224 CE, a new Persian dynasty rises, the Sassanids. And this is the period many historians consider the height of classical Iranian civilization. The Sassanids were deeply invested in Persian identity. They promoted Zoroastrianism, the ancient Iranian religion, as a state religion. They built monumental architecture. They developed an imperial culture so sophisticated that even after they were defeated, it shaped the world around them. Zoroastrianism itself deserves a moment here. Founded by the prophet Zoroaster, it introduced concepts that would later echo through Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. A cosmic struggle between good and evil, a final judgment, a messiah figure, the resurrection of the dead. Iran wasn't just a political entity. It was a civilization engine. In 651 CE, the Sassanid Empire falls to the Arab Muslim armies. This is often framed as the end of ancient Iran. It wasn't. Yes, Iran converted to Islam, though not overnight and not without resistance. Yes, Arabic became the language of religion and scholarship. But something extraordinary happened. Iran converted Islam as much as Islam converted Iran. Persian scholars, poets, and administrators flooded the early Islamic courts. The Abbasid Caliphate in Baghdad was, in many ways, a Persian operation wearing Arab robes. Persian bureaucratic systems, Persian court culture, Persian architectural styles, they became the template for Islamic civilization. And the Persian language? It didn't die. It evolved. By the 9th and 10th centuries, a new literary Persian, known as Dari or Farsi, exploded into one of the world's great literary languages. Let me pause on this because it's important. In the 10th through 13th centuries, Persian literature produced work that belongs among humanity's greatest achievements. Ferdowsi spent 30 years writing the Shahnameh, the Book of Kings, a 50,000-verse epic that preserved pre-Islamic Persian history and became the cornerstone of Iranian national identity. To this day, Iranian schoolchildren know lines from it. Rumi, born in what is now Afghanistan, died in what is now Turkey, wrote in Persian. His Masnavi is a vast spiritual ocean, still read and loved across the world. Omar Khayyam, mathematician, astronomer, and poet, wrote the Rubaiyat, lines that still resonate across languages and centuries. These were not relics of a fading culture. They were a culture asserting itself, saying, "We are still here. We have always been here." Then came the Mongols. In the 13th century, the Mongol invasion was catastrophic. Cities leveled, populations decimated, irrigation systems, the backbone of Persian agriculture for millennia, destroyed. And yet, within 2 generations, the Mongol rulers of Iran had become patrons of Persian art, literature, and architecture. The Ayal Khanate court spoke Persian. Iranian painters, poets, and architects flourished under Mongol rule. This pattern, absorbing the conqueror, is so consistent in Iranian history that scholars have given it a name: the Persianization of foreign rulers. The Timurid dynasty that followed produced some of the most breathtaking art and architecture in human history. The tilework of Samarkand, the miniature paintings of Herat, all Persian cultural products, under technically foreign rulers. 1501. A new dynasty takes power in Iran, the Safavids. And they make a decision that permanently reshapes the country. They declare Twelver Shia Islam the state religion. At the time, most of Iran's Muslims were Sunni. This was a radical, top-down transformation, and it worked. Within a century, Iran had become the heartland of Shia Islam, setting it apart from the surrounding Sunni Ottoman and Uzbek empires. Was this a purely religious choice? Partly, but it was also profoundly political. A distinct religious identity meant a distinct national identity. The Safavids were nation-building. Their capital, Isfahan, became one of the most beautiful cities in the world. Shah Abbas I built the Nakshi Jahan Square, still standing, still stunning, and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. A Persian proverb from this era captures the feeling. Isfahan is half the world. By the 19th century, Iran finds itself squeezed between 2 great empires, Britain to the south and east, Russia to the north. It's never formally colonized, but it's constantly pressured, manipulated, and carved up by foreign interests. In 1906, Iranians do something remarkable. They force their king to accept a constitution and establish a parliament, one of the first constitutional revolutions in Asia. But the most explosive chapter is oil. Iran sits on vast oil reserves. In 1951, Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh nationalizes the British-controlled Anglo-Iranian Oil Company. The reaction from Britain and the United States? A coup in 1953 that removes Mossadegh from power and reinstalls the Shah. This moment, the CIA-backed coup, is still an open wound in Iranian political memory. It shapes how Iran views the West to this day, and it's essential context for everything that follows. In 1979, a revolution unlike any other in modern history takes place. The Shah is overthrown, not by a communist movement, not by a military coup, but by a mass popular uprising that brings a cleric, Ayatollah Khomeini, to power. The Islamic Republic that emerges is a genuinely new experiment in governance, a theocracy with a republican structure, where religious law and elected institutions coexist, sometimes uneasily. A brutal 8-year war with Iraq follows almost immediately. Then decades of sanctions, international isolation, and internal tension between reform and conservatism. And yet, and this is the point, Iran remains. It has nuclear negotiations, Instagram influencers, one of the highest rates of nose surgery in the world, ancient poetry recited at dinner tables, and 85 million people navigating an enormously complex national identity. So what is the Iranian nation? It's not defined by a single religion. Zoroastrians, Jews, Christians, and Muslims have all been Iranians. It's not defined by ethnicity. Persians, Azerbaijanis, Kurds, Arabs, and Baloch all call Iran home. What defines it is something harder to pin down: a continuity of language, poetry, memory, and a stubborn insistence on cultural identity across every invasion, conversion, and catastrophe. Iran has been conquered more times than most civilizations have existed. And every conqueror eventually found themselves speaking Persian, reading Rumi, and eating in the Iranian tradition. That is not a coincidence. That is a civilization. 3,000 years ago, the Persians were building the world's first superpower. Today, Iran is a country of young people, over 60% under 40, who carry this entire weight of history while scrolling social media and arguing about football. The Iranian nation has never been just a line on a map. It has always been an idea. And ideas, as history shows, are very difficult to kill. Pause. If you want to go deeper, I'll link some books and documentaries in the description below. And if this video made you think, share it. This is a story more people should know.